So the Feast of Corpus Christi is important because it's the one feast day in the year that actually looks the deepest and celebrates this idea of the real presence of Christ in his body, blood, soul, and divinity. So actually there's a story behind the Feast of Corpus Christi. So it happened at around 1263 by a priest called Father Peter, who was going on pilgrimage to Rome from Germany. And he went to the tomb of Saint Christina during this pilgrimage, and he wanted to say Mass. So he got the permission from the local priest there, and he went to the tomb to say Mass. And the interesting thing about Father Peter was, they called him Peter from Prague, Father Peter from Prague, was that he was actually having huge doubts about the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist. He was not quite sure whether, when he said the words of consecration as a priest, acting in the person of Christ, which a priest does when he says Mass, whether our Lord was actually becoming present in the body, in the bread and in the wine. And so, even with his doubts, he went to the tomb of Saint Christina in Italy, and he said Mass, and just as he said the words of consecration, the host that he was holding began to bleed in front of his eyes. And the blood was now dripping from the host onto his hands and onto the linen cloth of the altar where he was saying the Mass. And he actually, in the description of it, is that he thought that he could be able to hide it from the people who had come to attend Mass. But it was so evident that the blood would not stop flowing that the people there at Mass actually saw what was happening. And I think he said that he stopped the Mass because he was not sure what was happening. But luckily, he was very close to where the Pope, who was Urban IV, was residing. So he took the bleeding host and the linen cloth that had the blood of Christ on them, and he took them to the Pope to be studied to see whether he was actually like hallucinating or something had happened, or this actually was truly the body and blood of our Lord. And actually, after a year of investigation, the Pope established that that cloth and that host was actually containing the true blood and body of our Lord. And even when scientists have studied these corporals, this linen cloth and the blood, they have found that it is actually human blood, and that they've actually found tissue of a human being in this host. But mostly the one for the host has been in other Eucharistic miracles, but in this particular blood that was there on the linen cloth for Father Peter, they established that this was actually human blood. And so after a year after this miracle happened with Father Peter at the tomb of Saint Christina, Pope Urban IV then established the Feast of Corpus Christi to commemorate the actual true presence of Christ in the body, blood, soul, and divinity within the Eucharist. And actually, that's when he asked St. Thomas Aquinas to also compose certain hymns for the Eucharist, which is how we have the Tantum Ergo that we sing during benediction, the Pangelingua, the Adulatory Devote. So all of these were actually consequences of this first miracle and the institution of the Feast of Corpus Christi, and which are hymns that we have today to commemorate that day.
Powerful.